everyone to our episode today with Alex Blaikie from ESL Australia. Look, as usual, we're just going to start off with yourself. So firstly, welcome and thanks for taking your time.
No problem, Nicole. Yeah, good to be here.
Excellent. All right. Well, look, tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, so I work at ESL, which is Australia's biggest eSports company. It's a company that has eSports offices all around the world in more than 10 different countries around the world. And effectively what we do is we run competitive video game tournaments online and live events everywhere that you name it. And yeah, we're really seeing at the moment that there's a lot of interest around the eSports space.
Yeah, excellent. All right. And how long have you been involved in the space personally and also with ESL Australia?
Yeah, so I've been involved doing esports in one form or another for over 5 years, I'd say. Probably more like 10 years since I was in high school, just kind of dabbling about. I started off competing in video game competitions. I then moved on to commentating them. That's how I got my job at ESL. And now what I'm doing is more along the PR and marketing side. So very traditional comparison would be, doing PR marketing and social media for a more traditional sports league. That's what I do now.
Yeah, excellent. All right, cool. And in terms of the journey with the ESL Australia, can you give us an insight into how the company's grown and I guess how you've grown along with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So ESL Australia, 5 years ago, taking then as an example, was barely or less than 10 employees. And when I came on board, that it was definitely not a large company. And since then, we've grown to over 25 full-time employees with Nick Van Zetti at the helm predominantly, and it's really been a good growth story for our local office here because effectively everyone's starting to realise now that esports, they are the way forward for for brands and for people who want to connect with a young, digitally savvy audience that's often quite hard to reach.
Yeah, right. Okay. And look, finally, you just mentioned in terms of esports being the way forward. Look, coronavirus, it's the topic on everyone's mind at the moment. Can you tell us how that might have impacted esports broadly, but also you guys?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think at the moment, one of the things that we're seeing is that there's actually a massive surge of interest from your more traditional sporting leagues, which now have had to, postpone or cancel their regular seasons. And they're now starting to look into esports specifically because, of course, one of the great things about esports, and it's effectively where we started in esports 5-10 years ago, is that, everything can be played online. Everything can be played from a bedroom at that grassroots, at that base level. And so whilst a lot of live events, whether it's, sporting live events or esports live events are not going ahead at the moment, there's this great opportunity that a lot of brands are taking to, move into the esports route and actually, start to think, okay, we can actually play this game. We can give people their, competitive sporting fix, and it can all be done in a bedroom. So that's what we're seeing a lot of at the moment, both for, your traditional sporting events and also us as well as we move a lot of our online premier competition or a lot of our live premier competitions to online.
Yeah, right. Excellent. And in terms of the numbers, like, have you noticed any trends in terms of an increase from for the last couple of weeks, especially?
Absolutely. I mean, if you take a look at, for example, our ESL Pro League, which is the world's biggest Counter-Strike professional league, the numbers for ESL Pro League have jumped up over 30% in terms of viewership, and we've actually been hitting new viewership records for that one, which involves the world's best teams. And that's a global league, of course, and locally we've been seeing that exact same trend. So just last weekend, we actually had our ESL ANZ Champs Finals, which is our kind of local premier Counter-Strike league. And for that one alone, we had over 200,000 unique viewers tune in. There was,
Look, you mentioned your journey in with ESL Australia started about 5 years ago. For people that are looking to get into the workforce and get more involved with esports, what opportunities would be present for them at the moment?
Yeah, good question. So I think at the moment, there is a lot of opportunities for people to get in at the grassroots level. So, you've got lots of teams competing in esports at the moment, and whether you're actually wanting to compete or wanting to look at it as a career, one of the best ways to start is quite often just reaching out to, a team in your local area, seeing if they need any help. You might be wanting to do what I do, social media, PR and marketing. You could perhaps take a look at if your local team needs someone to help with their social media. That's a great way just to get your foot in the door if you haven't started with esports before. And once we start to see more regular esports events building up, then again, another way to start out at some of these events is perhaps looking at volunteer roles, which often come with some pretty good bonuses as well, depending on what event it is. And basically just the way that lots of our company got into esports initially was by volunteering, by dedicating their time, by really being passionate about it. And that's the thing about esports. You've really got to be passionate about it. There's very few people full-time in esports right now in Australia that, don't do it because they love it. I mean, that's effectively why a lot of us are in it.
Yeah, excellent. All right. And in terms of the landscape in Australia, can you tell us about the best way to get started? Any resources, any podcasts, any companies that would be good to follow on social media, aside from yourselves, obviously?
Yeah, aside from ESL Australia, make sure. But no, it's there are quite a few podcasts at the moment. One of the great ones that I've been listening to recently is the eSports Social Club. So definitely give that one a listen. They talk about just a super wide range of topics in esports in Australia at the moment. A bunch of great guys, most of them are commentators, and definitely worth a listen. Aside from that, you've got a lot of people on Twitter. So I think Twitter is definitely the platform that you want to be on if you're trying to get your foot in the door with esports. And effectively, if you follow all of the kind of big Australian leagues, so whether that's the League of Legends Oceanic Pro League, whether that's the Rainbow Six Pro League, ESL Pro League, our one, if you start following those leagues, start looking at who's interacting with them, then there'll be a lot of opportunities to sort of interact with that audience and that I guess all of the people in Australia who are on Twitter kind of doing esports there. So.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. And do you are you involved in esports personally? And if so, what are a couple of your favorite games?
Yeah, definitely. So I haven't played competitively for a while, but I love a good game of Counter Strike. If you've ever been to our Intel Extreme Masters events, watching the Renegades, the Australian local team, play, on stage in Kudos Bank Arena, there's absolutely nothing like it. So Counter Strike's probably my pick of the bunch there. But before I actually worked at ESL, I developed my own esports game. That's sort of how I got my foot in the door. And it's called Down to One. And it was actually the first standalone Battle Royale game on Steam. So I'm definitely a bit of a sucker for Battle Royale games like your PUBGs or your Fortnites as well.
Yeah, excellent. And look, for the people that have been around for a while in the Australian esports community, what are some of the events that usually get the largest crowds in person in Australia? Say especially in the larger cities like Sydney and Melbourne.
Certainly. So the ones that you've got to keep your eye out for are Intel Extreme Masters and the Melbourne Esports Open, which, of course, for those that don't know, this year, Intel Extreme Masters was actually hosted at the Melbourne Esports Open. But IEM has been running as a global competition, a global event for over 75 events so far. It's the biggest single esports tournament in Australia. It's packed out the Kudos Bank Arena for the last 3 years. And you definitely, if you have one chance to go to an esports event in Australia, even if you know nothing about it, then IEM is definitely the one to go to.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. And I know, look, for a lot of people like myself, who may be sports fans that are looking to get into esports and learn more about the space, the easiest avenue is, traditional sporting games. So whether it's NBA 2K or FIFA or a lot of the car racing simulation games, can you give us, I guess, an insight into what would be the easiest way through the traditional sporting games to get into esports?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think at the moment I was just watching on the weekend the Supercars E-Series, and it's so easily understandable. And there were points watching that one, which of course is now all online and played electronically, that with the real commentators from the supercars and some of the real tracks, it actually looks like you're almost watching the real thing. If you stand far enough back from the screen, it's so similar. So I definitely reckon any racing games fans should give or racing sports fans. Outside of that, lots of the leagues in America, I think NBA, they're looking to do some online NBA competitions as well, and NBA 2K could be a good one for basketball fans as well.
Cool. All right. And ESL Australia, I had a quick look at the website, but in terms of, I guess for people that are new to esports getting an understanding, can you let us know what areas that you cover and I guess what you're aiming to do with the site?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, ESL Australia, we are a full service esports company. So basically, if you're a brand or a publisher looking to get into esports, looking to run your own league, looking to showcase your brand to the esports audience, then we basically do everything under the sun, from broadcast production to league operation to brand activations within that space. We have done 90% of Australia's large scale esports events. That's an esports event with over 200 live attendees in Australia over the last 5 years. So effectively, we pride ourselves on offering the highest tier of service to our clients, and to anyone who's looking to get involved with esports, we can turn the key for you, open the door.
Yeah, excellent. All right, cool. Well, look, I think in terms of the things I wanted to cover, that was most of the points I wanted to go through. You've been excellent, Alex. A really good insight, I guess, an inside edge into getting into esports. In terms, the last thing I guess I quickly wanted to ask. So obviously, it's a pretty quiet time for a lot of sport fans. So can you tell us, I guess, over the long weekend, what might be something to look out for in the esports world and how to get into it?
Good question. So over the long weekend, definitely take a look out for the ESL Pro League. That's going on globally. Best Counter-Strike teams playing against each other in the world, including a few Aussies. I would say as well, we've got the ESL ANZ Champs, which if you want to watch something a little bit more local, we've got StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3, which are like some classic esports titles going on at the moment in the ANZ Champs to keep an eye out for. But of course, any of that stuff, just head on over to the ESL Australia Twitter or Facebook, Instagram, whatever you use. It's all posted on there, so really easy to follow.
Excellent. All right, look, thank you so much for your time, Alex, and look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Have a good one.
Excellent. No worries. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to check out more of our content, go to sporttechdaily.com or follow us on social media across Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram.